You know what makes Minot magic to me?
Good friends.
Great people.
It's our downtown.
You can't beat it.
Welcome.
Rediscover.
Rediscover the magic in Minot.
2020 has been a year. So I tell you what, let's focus on something positive. How about a Citizen of the Year? This year for the State of the City, we are going to be looking for one individual who has done magic things in Minot. There's a catch though. I want you to submit the application, or rather the provenance that explains why that this individual deserves the Citizen of the Year award for the city of Minot. So I want you to grab a phone or anything else that you can record on and make your submission. Even if you don't know how to run a camera phone or a recording device, we can certainly help you out right here in the Minot Public Library with some great people that can even teach you a new skill. But you know what? We're going to make this even a little better. The winner of the Citizen of the Year is going to have a $1,000 donation made in their name to their favorite charity right here in Minot. That is all compliments of First International Bank and Trust here of Minot, and even for doing such a great job of making that submission, the person that is submitting the video is going to be given $100 in chamber bucks, courtesy of North Dakota Farmers Union Insurance. So, how do you get those submissions? Well, we'll show you how.
What makes Minot magic for me is the way our community comes together. There is no other community that is able to come back from a setback like Minot. Correct. All right. We'll call the regular meeting to order for today, Monday, 2nd, 2025, 30 in the afternoon. I would ask everyone to make sure that your cell phones and electronic devices are on silent or vibrate. And we can keep distractions down. I think, Derek, we have feedback coming from the person if we turn that down. While you're doing that, number 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
You've been muted. To unmute yourself, press *6.
Number 3 on our agenda this afternoon is the mayor's report. I will start first with the different activities and appointments that I did have for the month of October. To kind of highlight a few of these here, on the 7th, I did have a COVID Coalition phone conference
on the 8th. Magic City Discovery Center groundbreaking. I know we've talked and touched on this in the past, but I did want to highlight this one more time and also say thank you to
Is now
Colonel
exiting.
Michael Walters from Minot Air Force Base for attending, as well as Senator John Hoeven for being there for the groundbreaking. Certainly great things that the community coming together in partnership with Minot Air Force Base, and also one of those highlight points that we had also talked about when Madam Secretary of the Air Force was here as well. So it's great to see something like that coming to fruition with help not only from city staff,
Is now
but
exiting.
but the commitment for members in our community. I did have a board meeting for MADC on the 8th. On the 12th, I am taking note. I had a personal day out there and had to include that because it is a once-in-a-lifetime moose egg, and I did fill it. So I couldn't pass the opportunity up without at least tooting my horn one more time. With that, I appreciate the levity there. On the 14th, MADC Intermodal Press event as well. This was another big monumental mark for the city of Minot. This has been decades in the making. A lot of effort went into this from folks not only from the MADC board, but the acting director and a lot of the other folks from partnerships around the state. And that includes folks from the State Department of Commerce. That includes some of the folks that are in shippers and the marketing folks that do a tremendous amount on the ag side from around the state. So big thank you to all of them, including staff once again, as we work through a lot of challenges to get to this point. And certainly the long haul isn't over, but we have had more than one intermodal train in and out of that facility, so it is fully operational. On the 14th, I did have another Moss River Enhanced Flood Protection Project home acquisition closing at Minot Title and Guarantee. On the 19th, we did conduct a legislative outreach meeting at Public Works with a number of our state legislators. And this one was simply updates on the flood control and where we are at with the Moss River Enhanced Flood Protection Project, not only in terms of construction, but also cost, and essentially what we are looking for in terms of long-term funding, but kind of the timeframes for breakout for a really good understanding going into this legislative session, which is going to be very important. We also did touch extensively on NAWS, the Northwest Area Water Supply Project, another one of those projects that is decades in the making, and we've got some big milestones coming up that we're gladly going to mark and hopefully see come to fruition here within the next 1 to 3 years. And sooner before later, water will be coming through the NAWS pipeline from Lake Sakakawea to Minot. So it'll be a great day, won't it, Dan, when we see that? On the 20th, I did attend one of the prayer vigils that was outside of Trinity Hospital, and that was for the caregivers and COVID patients that were in there, and starting to see more and more folks. We've seen that around the state. I took the opportunity to join some local pastors for that. On the 21st, COVID Coalition phone conference. The 22nd was COVID call with the North Dakota mayors with Governor Burgum. The 23rd, Alderman Janser and a number of the task force members, and myself included in that, were invited to go out for one of the quick launch training missions out at Minot Air Force Base. I think so far it was one of the windier days and chillier days to be standing on top of the perch out at the control tower to see that exercise, a quick launch of a number of Minot Air Force Base B-52s, and really all the work that goes into making that mission happen. And all amidst one of the great migrations of Canadian geese right through the flyways. So it's not just man's obstacles or weather, but Mother Nature's flocks and flocks of millions of geese. But a big thank you to Minot Air Force Base for the invitation to really see some of the fine men and women Minot Air Force Base and the job that they do. On the 27th, I did do a guest lecture for Minot State University, one of their public speaking classes. We did that via Zoom, given all of the constraints with COVID right now. Great opportunity. I want to thank Ms. Beal for the invite on that, and her folks that were on that call. It was good interaction with a lot of great students from Minot State University. The 27th, I did have a COVID task force meeting on Teams. Again, a special MADC meeting on the 28th. Moss River Enhanced Flood Protection Home Acquisition. There was a couple of closings on that one on the 29th. Then on the COVID call with the mayors and Governor Burgum. Another special MADC meeting on the 30th. And again, part of those conversations are the discussions of the bringing together the Minot Chamber of Commerce and MADC and how that is looking. So a lot of discussions that are taking place and conversations as that process moves forward. And finally, on the 30th, at least for the note here, I did an interview with a Montana State University student on some of the different events that have taken place here in Minot. Great opportunity to share what is going on within the Magic City. This number is really low, and 20 or more other meetings regarding city business, and I couldn't even count the number of phone calls, emails, or other social media interactions, as well as staff interactions. That is just the activities and different meetings. Are there any questions specific to that before I continue? If not, I do have a list of appointments for consideration for this evening.
Move that.
Motion by Alderman Patagula to approve, second by Alderwoman Olson. Any discussion on the appointments? Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Padagula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Bittmer,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Pittner.
Yes.
Motion is approved. The last item that I want to discuss within the mayor's report is something that Alderman Patagula, but a number of other aldermen and women had reached out. We do have First District Health Unit Director, Executive Director Lisa Clute on the line. There's been a tremendous amount of discussion over the last not only month, but just even the last couple of weeks with COVID numbers. I did ask Lisa as well to join us, Ms. Clute to join us for a briefing, and would take this opportunity during the mayor's report, as Lisa and I have been in contact quite a bit, as well as a lot of other folks in the healthcare industry. Ms. Clute, are you on the line with us this afternoon?
Yes, I am.
Lisa, if you would, if you have a report for the council and an update on where we're at with current situation, not only with COVID numbers, but just kind of the quick overview for the community city of Minot and how that relates to Ward County as well, and the first district.
Certainly. So right now, the active cases within Ward County are 1,188. The city of Minot has the bulk of those cases. Today's test positivity rate was 22.72. There have been 54 deaths recorded at this point. There does appear to be somewhat of a delay in deaths being reported. I'm looking into that, but I do know facilities have up to 10 days to report deaths. And then also there are several deaths pending approval or confirmation, I guess, at the state. I do not know how many of those are Ward County deaths or if any of those are Ward County deaths. So that is our current count right now. Right now we have a 14-day positivity rate of 22.3%. Anything over 15%, the governor identifies as critical or in the red zone. Active cases per 10,000, currently we are at 111.4. Anything over 40 is considered critical. And the bulk of our cases continue to be in the ages of 20 to 29. Currently there are 259 cases in that age group, 200 cases in the 30 to 39-year-olds, 146 cases in the 40 to 49-year-olds. And then our next large grouping is 80 and above. And then it goes in that 60 to 70 to 80-year-olds. We also have some cases in the younger population. They are not at the level of the 20 to 29-year-olds, but we are seeing increased numbers in those populations. We continue to meet frequently with Trinity Hospital and continue to assess the capacity. Staff shortage, as always, is an issue. And we also are seeing some of this at First District Health Unit. Currently, I have 11 staff that are either quarantined, positive, or isolated. So we know that community spread, as always, is impacting the vulnerable populations. Tomorrow at noon, First District Health Unit will host a press conference to give a community status report locally on that. Dr. Wigway will join me. He is our First District Health Officer. We are very fortunate to have him. He's an infectious disease specialist and really has done an outstanding job filtering through all of the various information and keeping on top of what we continually learn about this virus, as well as Dr. Sather from Trinity Health, and he will be available to discuss at that press conference the situation that they are experiencing at the hospital. So with that, I guess I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I will try my best to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Clute. I appreciate you being with us via phone here this evening. Questions for Lisa? Alderman Ross.
Lisa, do you have a number of how many people have survived COVID-19 in Ward County, cumulative since the beginning?
I do, however, I don't have it available. I mean, I could pull it up. Do you want me to try to pull it up here while we're meeting?
Yeah, I mean, you can email it or whatever. I guess it does. I would just like to know that number. And as a follow-up, can you talk about the process when somebody is notified that they have tested positive for COVID? What does First District Health Unit and or Trinity Health advise them to do for treatment?
We typically do not advise treatment at First District Health Unit. That would be a medical provider. We have provided information through more general social medias and those sorts of things on things that you can continue to do to improve your immune system, exercise, eat well, rest, all of those things. So we have continued to provide that information. We do not give individual medical advice. That is a medical doctor's responsibility.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Clute? Alderman Patagula.
Thank you, Lisa. Really appreciate your update. And I take it tomorrow at noon you'll have much more information. Pending that, do you have any idea as to how the hospital and the hospitals in the western part of the state are doing, particularly in terms of intensive care beds? That's something that's been very worrisome.
Yes, well, I can tell you that they continue to assess capacity daily. That census changes, obviously, hourly. And I will say that they're tight. It's difficult for me, and I don't want to speak for Trinity Health, but I will say that across the state, physicians are meeting at least weekly, and looking at that, I'll just say it's tight across the state.
Continue.
I really, appreciate your sober words, and again, I'm looking forward to what the press conference will reveal tomorrow. Casually, though, observationally, when I've been around town, I've noticed a lot more people wearing masks, which I think is a very good thing, and hopefully they're doing all the other things that we're recommending. Washing their hands frequently, avoiding contact with their faces, sanitizing touch surfaces, things like that. But it's starting, again, anecdotally to seem to me that people are starting to take this a little bit more seriously. And like I say, I'll be very curious and very much looking forward to what you and the other experts have to say tomorrow. Thank you.
Further questions for Ms. Clute? Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate the time and once again joining us by telephone, and we'll look for more information tomorrow. As our yes, Alderwoman Evans.
Since we're talking about COVID, can I ask Chief Klug to come up and answer a question?
Sure. Chief.
Good evening, sir. Hey, I know when we passed the mandate a couple of weeks ago, we, committed to, checking in with you, seeing what impact, if any, it's having on your people. So I just want to, get an update from you.
Yep, Mayor and Alderwoman Evans, I most of the inquiries we've had about the mask mandate itself have been handled by dispatch. Most of them are just questions about, somebody's in a store and they just direct them, hey, have you talked to management? And they're directed to handle it that way. So we've only had a couple calls where we've had to respond, and the people in question have been gone before we get there, where the business is actually asking us to remove somebody who won't wear a mask. So I guess at this point, what I've asked the supervision in both our dispatch center and on patrol is just to monitor what the call volume is. And if it gets to the point where it's really interfering with our operation in any way, then we would bring it forward and say, hey, we've got a problem here. It's taken up a lot of our time, but that's not the case at this point. So I think as it stands today anyway, we have not heard of any major issues that have come from the mask mandate. And it's really business to business. It is how it's going right now. It's some enforce it, some don't.
Right. Well, I'm glad to hear that it hasn't, been I know your people are really stretched thin right now, and we appreciate all of the, work that they're doing and hours they're putting in to help our community through this. So we don't want to add to that unnecessarily. So I think just keeping in constant communication and, adjusting as we need to is the key. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. As our city manager comes forward, I do just want to also add, taking a look at the mask mandates, the cities of Fargo, West Fargo, Bismarck, Dickinson, Devils Lake, Williston, Grand Forks, I might be missing one or two within that, have all also passed mandates, very similar, so there's a few variances within there as well. If you thought perhaps we've had some long meetings, I believe the discussion in Bismarck went beyond 5 hours for Bismarck to get through theirs. There was some good information, though, as those discussions went very, very lengthy and well into the night. Just for the council's update as well, very quickly, on the last piece of my mayor's report, I am continuing conversations with various partners at the state level, Health and Human Services, Chamber of Commerce and other Commerce Department, and as well as the governor's office at looking at as many different possibilities or options as we can to, one, help mitigate the spread, but two, also taking a look at any potential economic impact variables that we might be able to either develop or help develop, because that's a lengthy discussion I think a lot of the mayors are having when we're on the call with the governor. So it is all being talked about, and certainly we're trying to collectively look for answers and possible programs or solutions as we move through this. I know our acting city manager is going to have some COVID update numbers as well, so I will turn it over to Mr. Lakefield. Good evening, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. We'll try to keep this as brief as can be, but we have lots of things to update this week. Important dates, of course, tomorrow is election day. all day. You can vote at the auditorium just up the hill from City Hall. Planning Commission on the 4th, 5:30 in council chambers. Also on the 4th, we have a city manager candidate open house at 6 o'clock. This will be done virtually through Facebook. The members of the community are welcome to participate and provide questions that will be asked to the candidates. So hopefully folks will tune in and take part in that process. City manager candidate interviews at 8 a.m. on November 5th here in City Hall. And then on the 16th, again, the second council meeting of the month. And November 20th, the Magic Fund Committee at 7:30 a.m. in council chambers. Little update on some NDR action that has happened in the last month or so. The Resilient Homebuyer Program continues. They're on track to close 25 forgivable mortgages by the end of November. That exceeds the goal of 20 for all of 2020. The financing will continue through 2021. So this has been a very good program, very popular and well received by members of the community. Zombie homes, we have another closing here on November 5th. Leaves us with 11 of the 33 homes identified that we are yet to deal with. So when you do the math and look at it differently, that means we have addressed 22 out of 33 of these zombie homes. So definitely making some progress. This has been a little bit of a challenging task. And I think one of the latest ones we closed on, the owner is actually living in Poland right now. So it's an international deal to get this cleaned up. Buyouts, we're making offers to property owners in MI5. They'll be going out here at the end of the month. We're a little bit ahead of schedule on that task. And we're already taking ownership of the first property. And then again, the buyouts for MI5 are on track with design and construction schedule for the Service River Joint Board. Construction projects, we've been very fortunate to receive this break in the weather. Lots of projects that were big projects this summer that were scheduled to go into early November for completion. Those final tasks are dependent on good weather, so hopefully this weather will stick around for a little bit and allow some of this completion activity to wrap up. 31st Avenue Reconstruction, here's an aerial view of the roundabout over there. Looks fantastic. The remaining asphalt and street tie-ins are being paved now. Driveways between 2nd Street and Broadway will be temporarily paved with asphalt until the spring. And the remaining landscaping, seeding, and cleanup will occur in the spring. And then the shared youth pass and sidewalks between 2nd Street and Broadway will be installed in the spring as well. And 31st Avenue will be fully open to traffic by the end of this week. 10th Street Sewer Replacement Project, final curb and gutter is being installed, or was installed late in October. Final lift of paving is supposed to be done this week. Driveway tie-ins on 34th Avenue will start the week of November 2nd, so also this week. And then the miscellaneous cleanup and landscaping seeding will occur in the spring. 8th Street Improvement Project, again, this is kind of the theme. Final lift of paving is being installed as we speak or this week. Sidewalk concrete work will continue this week, and any remaining work will be finished in the spring. We want to talk a little bit about our Broadway corridor study, and citizens can go to this site, movingbroadway.com, and there's a series of informational videos, and they can offer feedback into the future of Broadway and what they would like to see or offer suggestions. So Lance told me earlier today that they've had a really good response to this. I think he said over 1,700 unique visits to this site, and they've received a lot of feedback already and very good feedback. So we just want to encourage everyone to go out there. A number of short clips and gives you lots of information about the project, and you can add your input on what you would like to see in the future. Moving on to flood control. MI1, the contractor is finishing the final lift of asphalt on Railway Avenue again this week. Pass on the wet side are complete. The pump station exterior is finished, and electrical work and interior work will continue throughout the winter. MI23 is complete. And the picture on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen here, taken in, I believe this was early morning hours, showing how it's lit up there. I think it looks fantastic. They've done a great job. Obviously, this is flood control. It's a big concrete wall. They've done a good job to tie this in and make it aesthetically pleasing, and some features on it as well as low maintenance. So I think they did a great job. MI4A, the contractors are finished with the bore under the railroad tracks. They've rerouted sewer and water lines. That's just west of City Hall here. The contractor's locating the water on Western Avenue, and Burdick should be expected to be paved and open by the end of the week as well. The water treatment plant expansion, they're finishing work on the inside. The water main replacement's buttoning up. And again, they're going to be paving around the plant next week. And now, for the most exciting event, for me anyway, we're just going to give you a little bit of an update on our Jarvis project. And about a month ago, we made the decision to postpone our go-live date 1 month. And actually, the day that we made that decision, later in the day, we learned that our vendor had a ransomware attack in their systems, and it shut some of their systems down that we used for exchanging files for our conversion process. So had we not made that decision that day, we most likely would have been forced to make that decision later on. So we did push it off until November. The staff has been working diligently to make sure this thing has gone smoothly, and they worked throughout the weekend in the conversions, and we opened it up to users at noon today. And we've had a few little glitches with, things not working properly, but it's been small and minor, I think, is the way to characterize it at this point. So for the most part, we are on schedule, things are moving ahead, and we are live and doing business in the new software system. And I'm going to plug in and just give you a little bit of a sneak peek. Hopefully this will work. Oh, there we go. So this is just a screen, and this is in our live production system. So this is the real things. I just want to show one of the features that we're really excited about. And if you look in this first little box where I have a 1 here, it's my approvals. I can look at this, and this shows that I have one invoice that's sitting out there awaiting my approval. So I can go and look at this information, and I can drill down on it, find all of the details underlying this transaction. And with this little paper clip up here, I can actually click on this and see what's attached. So in this case, there's a copy of the invoice attached to it. So you can see exactly what the underlying details are behind this. And then I can go and click on there and approve it, not approve it, or hold it, or reroute it to someone else. So in our prior way of doing things, we would have these pieces of paper being routed around the city physically, going from office to office for approval, and then eventually they'd end up in the finance office and be paid and archived from there. So now anyone in the city that has access can look this up and drill down and see the underlying documents. They can see the approval process, who signed off on it. If they're waiting for something and it's not coming through, they can go back and track it back and see where it's at too. So we're definitely excited. Things are moving in the right direction, and we have a lot of work ahead of us yet as we make our integrations with the asset management software that the engineering department is working on. Our utility billing phase and our HR phase. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I think things are going the right direction. And we have a good crew that has put in a ton of time and hours, and I sent them an email Friday or Saturday and said they were all rock stars because they're really getting things going. And so far, like I said, things have been very smooth. So hopefully things will continue and we won't have any major bumps in the road, but we're very optimistic that we're heading in the right direction. And I think that's all I have. Well, no, I have important things yet here. We have 2 new employees that we have to introduce as well. And I think they're both here. John Van Dyke is our new principal planner. You can see him hiding behind the mask back there like everyone else. He comes to us from Mandan. So he knows what he's in for winter coming up here, so he's prepared. But we're fortunate to have him on board. And Jonathan Rosenthal is also here. He is our Economic Development Administrator for the city. So he's also familiar with northern climates, so he's not going to be too shocked either. So welcome, gentlemen, and welcome to the city of Minot. Any
Mr.
questions?
Lakefield, do you have some of the numbers that we had talked about for the COVID-19 weekly report?
Mr. Mayor, thank you for reminding me here. We do have an update in our meetings last week. They came up with the idea that we should be tracking on a weekly basis, maybe throughout the city, our impacts of this pandemic. And we've sent the information, and the fire chief compiles the information. We established an arbitrary date of noon on Monday to submit your information. So it's kind of a snapshot, I guess, of the last week's activities. And today, we actually have one department director that was out sick, so we're maybe short a little bit of numbers there. But we have 16 employees that are COVID positive, 34, or actually 36 that are either close contacts or quarantining for some reason. We have 9 that are working remotely and a dozen that are sick. And sick meaning they're not feeling well, but they don't have a COVID diagnosis yet. So this is of roughly 460 employees. We're 8-9% of our workforce is affected or in some way or another.
Thank you, Mr. Lakefield. And to once again reiterate and emphasize, it's a snapshot from noon today, and that has even changed from noon today. So it was an effort to collectively, I think, take a look at impact. We've been tracking very closely, too, through the task force, the effectiveness of each department to make sure that the continuation of city services and, of course, the city employees have done a tremendous job of really being agile and able to shift over and to take other responsibilities when some of the issues force us to work remotely or to be out because of infection. So appreciate all of the staff's work on that. Any questions for Mr. Lakefield? Thank you, sir. That takes us to number 5 on our agenda this evening, and that is the city attorney's report. Good evening, Mrs. Hendershot. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I submitted a written report, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for a city attorney?
Thank you.
Thank you. Takes us to number 6 on our agenda, and that is the consent items. We do have 16 different items within our consent. I've been asked to pull 6.8 and 6.11. Are there any other items that need to be pulled for individual discussion? Any other items? If not, what are the wishes of the council?
Move approval of the remaining items.
Motion by Alderwoman Olson for approval on the remaining items.
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Evans. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Second call. Final call? Please call the roll.
Olson? Yes. Pittner?
Yes.
Padragula?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Sitma?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Motion is approved, and this is where I'm going to pause for just a moment because we, not too long ago, had a very, very lengthy city council meeting where we had Ms. Helen Otto step forward wanting to address a zoning issue that was working its way through. We just passed 6.4, which is the final reading on that rezoning. So Helen, if you would want to come forward, our new principal planner has a certificate for you for the finality of what you had approached the council for that evening. So,
thank you. And I want to thank everybody that worked on this to help me get it straightened out.
Absolutely. We appreciate you coming forward. We appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you. All right, back to our regular scheduled program here. We have 6.8 is our next item for For consideration, CP Rail Main Street Crossing Upgrade Final Payment. This is number 4384. The CP Rail crossing at Main Street North was upgraded with a constant warning time system. The project is now complete, and the NDDOT is requesting final payment for the city. We have two recommendations before us. The recommendation for final payment to the NDDOT in the amount of $2,977.54, and to approve the attached budget amendment on first reading.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Patagula for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Olson. Alderman Patagula, you had asked that this be pulled.
Yes, I wanted to ask someone from engineering to come up and talk about a provocative phrase which I found in the memo encouraging us, asking us to adopt this. And the provocative phrase was mention of, quote, a future quiet zone, close quote, in downtown at some point, of which this improvement would be an important part, and there would be similar improvements like this if we ever got to that point. So I wanted to ask where we're at with that, how much one of these things costs, do we have any in the plan, in the works, anything like that?
Mayor Simmer, Alderman Padrigola, I'll touch on a few notes here. Some of this I kind of talked with Lance Meyer before the meeting today. We did have a quiet zone study completed before 2011, so it is almost 10 years ago at this point. There was a line item in the budget for 2020 to update that quiet zone study, but we took it out at the beginning of the year with COVID financial concerns. Speaking with Lance, SRF, who completed the original study in 2011, could kind of update that memo. That study, to redo that memo, would be about $29,000. So that's the starting point to redo the memo. It would kind of analyze what's been done in the last 10, 11 years, and then what we need to do going forward. And then also, we'd have to have planning discussions, meetings with downtown business owners and stuff like that. So that would be kind of the starting point for that study.
Continue.
I guess I wanted to kind of draw everyone's attention to the fact we have looked at this. It's obviously time to look at it again. I think with the increased activity downtown, new buildings coming in, new businesses, people living there. I think it came to my attention, I guess, last Friday when I picked up a pizza from one of the places downtown, and a train happened to be going through. It was awful. Yep. I mean, I had to cover up my ears. And I think with increases in train traffic, with the intermodal probably hopefully leading to even more train traffic, I think that's something we really should be looking at as a council. And I would encourage us, when next time it becomes time to consider this, whether in terms of a budget item or in terms of our retreat meeting, that we look very seriously at reviving that and updating the study and taking a look at it. I mean, we're a railroad town. We always have been. We hopefully always will be. But there's some very positive things we can do to make it a little bit easier for people who live near the tracks and are subjected to this noise. And I think it'll also be desirable to have, safer crossings. So I think what we're approving here helped, but there's still some crossings left, and I'd like to see the council, take a look at that, and staff look at that more carefully and study it formally at some point in the not too distant future.
Thank you. And just for information purposes as well, I believe Mr. Meyer, myself, and one of the members of the DBPA has a phone conference either tomorrow or Wednesday morning. I can't remember on my calendar, for kind of an update on that as well, on moving forward in the future for potential quiet zone, or at least an update from the perspective of the downtown folks. So,
thank you.
Further discussion. Second call. Final call on discussion. Seeing none, the motion is to approve. Please call the roll.
Padrigoula?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Sitma?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Olson? Yes. Pittner?
Yes.
Motion is approved. 6.11 is the Volkswagen settlement funding application request. North Dakota has been awarded funding through the Environmental Mitigation Trust Fund for the Volkswagen settlement. The primary goal of this settlement is to reduce the NOx emissions. The eligible projection for the application period will primarily include the replacement or repower of diesel-powered vehicles and equipment. The fire department would like to apply for the 2020 Volkswagen settlement fund for a 50% cost share towards a new fire engine, with the other 50% match coming from the CARES funding. The recommendation for the City Council is to allow the fire chief to apply for the 2020 Volkswagen Settlement Fund for a 50% cost share towards a new fire engine, with the other 50% match coming from CARES funding.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Janser to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Ross. Alderwoman Evans, you had asked for this to be pulled.
Yes, I just have a question for, well, first of all, I think this is great. I've actually seen and toured that 24-year-old fire engine, so it's great that this opportunity exists to purchase a new one and update our fleet. I just wanted to, with the 50% cost to the city of Minot, if you could just walk us through what we foresee that money coming from, just so taxpayers can sort of, see how we plan to pay for that, our $290,000 portion.
Mr. Lakefield.
Mayor Sitma, Alderwoman Evans, our anticipation would be as if they are successful in receiving this grant, that we would bring a budget amendment forward, and our anticipated source of funding would be essentially general fund reserves, and that is money that was appropriated in prior periods that has gone unspent and is accumulated in the general fund. In addition, this year, the city was awarded some money from the state in CARES funding that was passed through from the federal government, and that could be a potential source of funding as well.
Okay, so when the budget amendment comes, we'll have it more sort of figured out, and that.
Yeah, and Mayor Sitman and Alderwoman Evans, it will be coming from general fund revenues. So
great. No, I love that we can, potentially take advantage of this settlement. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Patagula.
Yes, I also took note of the fact that there may be some funding available for what is a vital, literally a vital piece of equipment. And I noticed something that I haven't seen before, and that was that some of this funding might be obtained from a purchasing consortium, which I think is called Smartwell, Summerwell, Purchasewell, something well. And could we hear a little bit more about that? I don't recall us taking advantage of this previously.
Mayor Sitma, Alderman Padagula, I'm not sure in the past how often or if we have used consortiums. I know we have used state bid pricing on purchasing of vehicles or equipment, and this works very similar. It's a group that goes together and puts together this bid or pricing for equipment like this and makes it available to other entities as well. The downside of this is you kind of have to take a standard list of options type of thing, but typically they do offer very competitive pricing, and it is authorized or allowed under our city procurement policy.
And the name of the organization in particular we're looking at here?
Mayor Sitma and Alderman Padagula, and I am not familiar with that particular consortium, but I believe that is specific for fire equipment.
And it's Summerwell, or, I'm sorry, I can't read my writing in my note.
I believe it is something like that.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with that we're doing that, and I think what we're looking at, hopefully saving something like $56,000.
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Padagula, yeah, that is the discount, and again, there may be several cities throughout the country or throughout this region that utilize this pricing. So again, it's basically a volume discount.
I'm really pleased with that, and I'd like to see us use that purchasing mechanism as much as we can. I mean, obviously we want to buy local as much as we can, but we can't buy the fire truck off the lot here. So I think this is a very positive development. I think people need to know about this. Here we're saving close to $60,000 hopefully, and that makes a significant difference. I'm really pleased with staff initiative in taking advantage of this kind of a program, and would like to see more of it.
And Mr. Mayor, and members of the council too, I also wanted to point out that we are also applying for this same grant to purchase 2 trucks to be used in public works. And the little bit of a difference there is we had budgeted to purchase those vehicles in the upcoming budget. So if we're successful in all of these, that will be even more of a savings for the city.
Even stronger thanks then, and compliments.
And I just wanted to thank Minot Planning Commissioner Tim Bowman. He's the one who really, made sure the city was, aware of this settlement program and, put some, gentle pressure and nudging on us to take full advantage of it. So we always appreciate when, folks come forward and, help us, do things like this as well.
Further discussion? Last call for further discussion. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson. Yes. Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion is approved. That takes us to the action items of section of our agenda. The first is 7.1, offer renewal option of lease terms to the Airport Hobby Shop doing business as Minot Aviation for Lot 1, Block 1 of the Minot International Airport, second edition. Minot Aviation has been a longstanding tenant at the Minot International Airport and is currently in a ground lease agreement with Minot International Airport. Minot Aviation has submitted a request to renew the lease for an additional year per the terms of the lease agreement. The renewal options for the original lease states that unless city has notified the leasee in writing at least 120 days prior to the expiration of the base term or the previous renewed term that it elects not to renew or extend the agreement. Leasee and city agree that upon the prior mutual agreement of land rental rates that leasee may be granted an option to renew this agreement on a year-to-year basis. The parties must mutually agree to the land rental rate and execute the renewal option a minimum of 90 days prior to the expiration of the base term. The two recommendations before us is to approve the renew option of the lease term to the Airport Hobby Shop doing business as Minot Aviation, owned by Stuart Luck and Eva Luck, and to authorize the mayor to sign the application, the applicable documentation.
Move approval.
Motion by Alderwoman Olson to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Evans. Discussion on the motion. Second call for discussion on the motion. Final call. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Olson. Yes. Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser.
Yes.
Motion is approved. 7.2 is the Manhole Rehab, Minot Country Club Project 4571. The sewer crews on a regular basis inspect manholes and other pieces of the sanitary sewer system. During a routine inspection of the Puppy Dog gravity sewer on the south end of Minot, significant deterioration was noted in the manholes due to a high level of hydrogen sulfide sewer gas. There are about 22 manholes that run through what is now the Minot Country Club. This task order would consist of having a consultant analyze solutions, design the repair work and access plan, and provide project management services. The recommendation for the council is to approve the contract in the amount of $67,500 with Ackerman Engineering for the design and construction services for the manhole rehab project through the Minot Country Club, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Janser to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Olson. Any discussion on the motion? Second call for discussion. Final call. Please call the roll.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson. Yes. Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yep.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion is approved. 7.3, the encroachment permit on 123 Main Street South. Gideon's Trumpet, Inc. and their tenant wish to install a new projecting sign from the southwest corner of their building at 123 South Main Street. The bottom of the sign will exceed the requirement minimum of 86 inches above the elevation of the existing sidewalk below. The recommendation before council is to approve the right-of-way encroachment permit application submitted by Gideon's Trumpet, Inc. for the projecting sign at their building at 123 Main Street South.
So move.
Motion by Alderwoman Evans to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Olson. Any discussion on the motion? Second call for discussion. Final call. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson. Yes. Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma.
Yes. Motion is approved. 7.4 is the reporting structure. In April 2020, Attorney Munson delivered the final report of the City Council where she recommended, among other things, modification to the organizational chart and/or order of reporting for certain city offices. The recommendation for the council for consideration is to approve on first reading the proposed ordinance change outlined in the attached documents.
Move approval.
Motion by Alderman Pittner to approve, second by Alderwoman Olson. Discussion on the motion to approve. Alderwoman Evans.
I was wondering if our city attorney could come up and answer a couple of questions.
Good evening again, Ms. Hendershot.
Thank you, Kelly. This is great. I mean, I know you've got a lot going on, and I'm so glad that we are taking the recommendations made to us by, somebody from the outside and trying to make some change that makes sense for, the structure of city government. So can you sort of walk us through? Okay, so there's sort of a proposal for a different reporting requirement for the city attorney and then for the HR director and finance director. Could you just walk us through sort of what that looks like just on a daily basis, even what that looks like, for things like yearly evaluations of those positions, just so we have an understanding of what, maybe it is now and what we're trying to move toward.
Sure. Mr. Mayor and Alderwoman Evans, excuse me. I can maybe first start with a quick synopsis of what the changes entail. First, the recommendation was to modify the reporting schedule for the city attorney to report directly to the full city council instead of the city manager. And then there was a sub-recommendation for the HR director to report to the city attorney until issues revolving the city manager were resolved. We took those recommendations and we have some modifications to those. But the city attorney, we did modify in the proposed ordinance to report directly to the city council. Because of civil service regulations, there are a lot of references within the civil service ordinances and personnel policies relating to the appointing authority. And so we made that, or the recommendation is to make that the mayor position. And the mayor, under our recommended changes, would have the authority to have those day-to-day interactions with the city attorney or the city attorney's office, would be responsible for the annual evaluation or delegating that to somebody else, and would be able to do what I have called as informal discipline, something like a written reprimand, oral reprimand, a suspension. All of those things would be subject to the civil service regulations, which would allow the city attorney to appeal that through the Civil Service Commission. What would not be within the mayor's authority would be to appoint or remove a city attorney. That would be only allowable with the city council's approval. So you would need 4 votes to remove the city attorney from his or her position. For the Human Resources Director, we considered the direct report to the city attorney, but we struggled because there are so many parts of the Human Resources position that are a responsibility of the city manager and that are something that the city manager would probably be very concerned about. And so we did what the current structure for the city finance director is, which is a dual report. The dual report goes, there's a day-to-day report to the city manager, but also has the ultimate reporting to the city council. And so we did the same thing and mimicked that structure for the human resources director as well. So the city manager would continue to be responsible for the human resources and finance director's evaluations day-to-day, all subject to civil service.
So what, in essence, this, we identified some problems, in the spring with council maybe not being as involved or participating between the city manager and department heads. So Ms. Munson sort of, thought and suggested that, this is a way for council to, in the bigger decisions, right? Like a department head cannot be, sort of let go with the city manager alone, right? The city manager would have to come to council and get, 4 votes to back up that decision. So it really is offering a bit of more protection for our department, for finance and HR, in the case of, something nefarious happening.
Mr. Mayor and Alderwoman Evans, yes. And in addition to that, while it wasn't a specific recommendation of Ms. Munson, we also made a modification in this proposed ordinance to the city manager duties and responsibilities relating to department head positions. The current ordinance is consistent with state law, and for the appointment or removal of a department head position, consultation with the governing body is required. And that has been interpreted differently by different city managers. Some have come to the city council and had a vote on it. Some have just informed the city council that they appointed or removed somebody. And so what we did with the proposed ordinance is we clarified that and required the approval by the city council. And so that would be similar to the city attorney with the city council ultimately making that decision.
Terrific. And I am totally positive this has happened, but I just want to make sure the finance director and HR director are all on board and think this is a good path forward.
Mr. Mayor and Alderwoman Evans, we worked with the finance department and the HR department in crafting this.
Great. No, this is awesome. So I'm very happy that we got this before us.
Alderman Patagula.
While I might not quite use the word awesome, I think this is a very, very positive change. And I wanted to compliment you and the other staff involved in this. We had a very difficult situation this past spring with our former city manager, and we just resolved it this past week. And one of the things I think we all learned was that we needed structural changes. It wasn't an issue of one person or 2 people that went astray or things that happened. And we've built, through this change, we've built in some guardrails, so to speak, to keep something like that from ever happening again. And, normally we depend on the goodwill of people and their good faith. But I think it's also a very important thing in government to have those guardrails, to have specific safeguards in place to protect the public, to make sure that the city council is aware of what's happening, and to protect staff from any kind of undue influence or intimidation or any allegations thereof. So I think this is one of the major things that came from that, and a very positive thing that came from that situation with the former city manager. And I think the public, again, needs to know this, that we took what happened seriously. We've made innovations, we've made changes, we've instituted protections. And I think that's a very, very important and a very positive thing for us.
Thank you, Kelly. Also want to thank Alderman Janser, Alderman Pittner. I know some of the early discussions that had kicked off about this with staff, and of course all of the work that went in with staff for the completion on this. So thank you. Second call for discussion. Final call. Seeing none, please call the roll.
Pittner?
Yes.
Padragula?
Yes.
Ross?
Yep.
Sitma?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Motion is approved. That is the end of Section 7, which takes us on to personal appearances, Section 8. This is an opportunity for anyone to come forward and speak on any item that is or is not on our agenda. Would ask that anybody that does come forward to state your name and city of residence, and we will give you 5 minutes for your item. Your name and city of residence, please.
Hello, my name is Danita Magnuson, and I want to thank you for Minot, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to address the council. Masks are everywhere. They're in our daily conversations, in the news, and now mandatory in Minot. In the case of masking and its effectiveness, we're simply discussing conjecture. We can't go on what is proven and run models around it. We're merely assuming their effectiveness. So this led me to research scientific studies regarding masking. Surprisingly, there's very little data. I'm not an expert on this subject, but I do feel compelled to report the deficiencies in reporting of mask effectiveness. I could see us having a contentious and debatable conversation if there was indeed scientific data supporting its findings, meaning a study was performed and everyone in a randomized controlled study was exposed to COVID. The people in Group A wore masks, the people in Group B did not. The people in Group C, half wore masks, the other half didn't. And here are the scientific studies, none of which has been done up to this point. When Dr. Fauci was asked if there's any scientific studies that prove that masks are the answer, he said, quote, "No, because in order to come to that conclusion, one would have to ask a portion of the study not to wear masks, and I'm not going to do that." You see, in order to come to a conclusion of any scientific study, you have to first conduct the experiment, create a hypothesis, and then come to a conclusion. One study, extracting virion particles taken from masks of actively sick COVID patients, showed the viral load within 70% of those masks had no virion particles present. The remaining 30% had an amount so minimal that the conclusion was this: preventing the spread of the virus by masking cannot be confirmed. Another study has shown that trapped particles in masks becomes aerosolized after a period of time, increasing the possibility of infection as well as the risk of medical complications. In this case, they were advised to replace their masks multiple times a day. I'm a critical thinker, therefore, I have to ask, if masks prevent or even slow the spread of COVID by trapping the virus within the masks, where are the biohazard receptacles for disposal? In the state of North Dakota, there's 762,000 people. Divide the total number of COVID deaths, 536. You have a 0.0007% chance of dying from COVID. This is heartbreaking. But I question the motives of this emergency declaration mandate because in 2018, North Dakota had 520 people die from pneumonia. A bacteria spread from person to person through coughing, sneezing, and close contact. No mask mandate in 2018. I wonder why. Outbreaks have a curve. They go up and down. This we do know. At this point, we have so many unknowns. Many say, just do your part and comply. It's not like we're asking you to do the impossible. This is true, and I would never do anything to harm another individual. But I am reluctant participating in a societal-wide experiment not knowing the consequences of the unknown. By mandatory masking, are we giving a false sense of security and possibly a disservice to others, leading them to believe that they're protecting and they're protected, that they are protected and protecting others as they touch, use, reuse, and remove their masks? Not to mention, what are we doing to our children of today? Not able to share a simple smile, facial expressions, suppressing social growth and interaction with other children, encouraging no human contact, not to mention suppression of healthy immune systems. Are we simply instilling fear and panic? I find this tragic. Truth is, COVID is here and it's far from over. It can cause you great harm or none at all. In weighing the pros and cons of this mandate, I see negative impacts such as social division, panic, fear, suspicion, reaction, loneliness, self-interest.
1 minute.
Should we not be encouraging reason, rationality, and education? There have been no clear definitive cases that masks prevent COVID. It's important that our decision makers devise a plan, but it's imperative that they weigh the consequences of the known and the unknown that ultimately affect the citizens they represent. Which leads me to this. You said that people not wearing masks will be asked to leave public buildings, and if they don't, they will be removed. When people go and vote tomorrow and someone isn't wearing a mask, are you going to deny them their right to vote? And if not, why?
So the quick answer to that is not a city-controlled building. That is operated by the Parks and Rec. So your answer is no.
Okay, but at the meeting that I was at, you asked if it was going to include the auditorium, All Seasons Arena. You asked if that was going to
That is
encompass
encompassed
all of
with
those.
the mask mandate.
Okay, so if
With the mask mandate, there are no penalties being enforced at this time.
And the issue of being removed again is for city-owned and controlled facilities.
Okay. So we're only calling the police officers if they enter a business and they're asked to leave? Is that my understanding?
That is entirely up to the private business at this point.
Okay, can I just have him clarify that? Because I heard earlier in the meeting that he said that they have been called.
The clarification on that is the business owners had asked the individual that was not wearing a mask to leave, and when they did not, because it is a private business, they do have the option of calling the police for a trespassing complaint.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Once again, this is an opportunity for personal appearances. Anyone to come forward and speak on any item that is or is not on our agenda. Seeing none, we will move on to our miscellaneous and discussion items. 9.1 is the City Hall options and update. I would look to our acting, actually Alderman Ross, you had asked that this be placed. We'll start there.
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I would like to defer this item until our next scheduled meeting in November. I believe we'll have some more information and possibly an update.
Okay. Thank you. Last call for any items under miscellaneous and discussion. Seeing none, that takes us to the end of our agenda. Next item is number 10, that is adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Pittner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Olson. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.